2025 sees the return of the Goober Readathon, and we would love to have you with us. Ghosty Goober is back, this time with a hobby all about plant care. They're still a bit of a novice in this area though, so they've put themselves together a plant study plan to help deepen their understanding. This is where you come in. For each of the reads that you finish in May, tie them to one of the prompts on Goober's study plan. Different study topics offer different prompts, and different prompts will give you different amounts of points. Come the end of the month, tally up all of your points to see what level of expertise you've been able to develop for Ghosty Goober. While that's the long story short of it, it's always nice to have just a little bit more information before we commit to doing anything new. So what is this readathon, how does it work, and how do you get involved? Sliding to the side, as said, this readathon is all about helping Ghosty Goober deepen their understanding of plants. This is one of their new hobbies. They're kind of a serial hobbyist, to be honest. They like to pick things up and put them down, chop and change, and just get into all different areas of creativity, crafting, and the like. This time around, their focus is on plants and plant care, which very much ties into their overall focus for the year, which is about flower arranging. That one's called the Year of Goober Challenge. It's a separate reading challenge we have. You do not need to be involved with that already to take part in this readathon, but it's never too late to start that one as well if you want to. While in that one, Goober has very much been enjoying learning about the perfect pairing of flowers and the meaning behind them. They've decided they want to expand their understanding to all types of plants and plant care, thus making themselves a plant study plan to tackle in May. For each of the reads that you complete in May, you just need to tie it to one of the prompts that Goober has on their study plan. As you complete those reads, you can earn yourself points, and by earning points, you can level up Ghosty Goober's expertise. There are 5 different tiers to be earned in this challenge, depending on how many points you accumulate. This readathon is brought to you by the Boudreaux Buddies Book Club, which is hosted by myself and my 2 friends Monica and Rachel. We've put this challenge together to help you gamify your reading so that you can get more reading done in May, or maybe kick off a new reading habit for yourself. Having a closer look at Ghosty Goober's study plan, you can see we have 2 different sections. The first part, Part A, is all about different plant types, whereas Part B is about advanced plant studies. Given that this is a self-directed study, you do not need to do every single prompt to win the challenge. It's very much more of a pick and choose model, so tackling the prompts you think you'd like, and leaving the ones that you don't think would be for you. Having a closer look at those 2 parts though, as said, Part A is all about different plant types. We have 6 different categories here, each with 3 prompts within them. What's special about Part A is that this is about deepening Goober's understanding in particular areas. That means that these prompts need to be completed in order within each category. So for instance, the prompts in native plants need to be completed sequentially. First completing local flora, then ecological restoration, and then endemic biomes. This doesn't mean that you have to complete the first prompt in every category first though. If you complete the first prompt, local flora and native plants, you don't then have to go and complete the first prompt in every other category before moving on to prompt 2. Because the prompts in these different categories need to be completed in order, this also means that as you get further into any category, so completing the first, then the second, then the third prompt, you're gonna earn yourself more points. The first prompt in any category in Part A is worth 1 point, the second is worth 2, and the third, as you can probably guess, is worth 3. When it comes to Part B though, this is about advanced plant studies. These ones are still separated into different categories, but they don't have to be completed sequentially. You can complete these ones at any time, in any order. These prompts are a little bit more special though, given the fact that this is advanced plant studies, so they are going to earn you more points. The point values in this one range from 2 to 6, depending on which prompt you're tackling. We're going to go over all of the prompts that are in the challenge later in the video. This one is fully time-stamped, so you can jump around if you want to. But in terms of undertaking the readathon, we do also have some rules. When it comes to any reading challenge, I like to be pretty casual, pretty open to interpretation, but we like just a little bit of structure to make sure that things feel fair. The first rule we have for the readathon is regarding your first book completed. This one you can have started before May, just so that then if you're kind of underway with a book, you don't feel like you have to rush through it before the readathon starts, or you don't have to hold off on starting a new book because you finished something too early to be counted for the readathon. But the first book that you count for the readathon has to be at least 50% completed in May. You can have started it early and read up to 50%, but the remaining 50% should have been finished in May for it to count. It's good to note here that this only holds for your first book. You can't read like 20 books to 50% and then finish them all off in May to count for the readathon. When it comes to using the prompts on Ghosty Goober's plant study plan, these can all only be used once. That means that you can't just tackle botanical local flora again and again and again to accumulate points. Similarly, each book that you read in May can only be counted towards one prompt. You can't read one book and then count it for 6 different prompts in the plan. As mentioned, the prompts in Part A are sequential. You have to complete number 1 in any category, then number 2, then number 3. You can't just jump to number 3 before having read for 1 and 2. For Part B though, these ones can be completed in any order and at any time. Our 5th rule relates to what we call historical Gooberists, or people who undertook the Goober Readathon in 2024. Depending on what level you reached last year, you will have some additional perks to apply to this year's readathon. Those perks though can only be used once, but they can be combined with each other depending on which ones you got. Our final rule is related to DNFs, or books that you don't end up finishing. You are allowed to use DNFs to fulfill the prompts in our readathon, so long as you read at least 50% of the book, and read that 50% in May. Now as we have the rules out of the way, as mentioned, we do have some perks for historical Gooberists. If you didn't take part in the Goober Readathon 2024, then you don't really have to watch this section. Feel free to jump around using those timestamps. But if you're curious, stay tuned because we're going to chat about what those perks are. In last year's readathon, we had 4 possible Goober tiers that could be reached, depending on what points you accumulated for the challenge. Those were Teeny Weeny Goober, Gung Ho Goober, Sublime Goober, and Uber Goober. Each of these tiers has been associated with a perk, and these perks stack. So if you reached the 3rd tier, or Sublime Goober, you get the perks for Sublime, Gung Ho Goober, and Teeny Weeny Goober. The perk for Teeny Weeny though is what we call the backdate bonus. This means that you can actually ignore one of the rules in the readathon. Rather than your first book for the readathon having to have been 50% completed in May, you can actually have it so that it's just 1% completed in May. This means that you can read up to 99% of a book before May starts, and then just finish it in May and have it count towards the readathon. If you reached the Gung Ho Goober status, it means that you also get the Teeny Weeny prompt, but the prompt for Gung Ho is what we're calling the prompt swap. This allows you to swap any 2 prompts within a category in Part A of the study plan. The important point here though is that the point value for each of those doesn't follow with it. Meaning, for instance, if you took the native plants category and decided to swap the prompt of local flora with endemic biomes. Typically speaking, local flora, being the first prompt in a category, would be worth 1 point, whereas endemic biomes, being the 3rd prompt, would be worth 3. When you swap the order of these, the points don't follow through. Instead, now endemic biomes will be worth 1 point, and local flora will be worth 3. The purpose for this perk isn't so much to make it so that you can accumulate more points with your first read in any category, but more so that you can reorder it to make things easier for you to tackle. If you find that the first prompt in any category isn't really something that is going to be easy to do, but the 2nd or 3rd looks like something you could tackle, you can swap the order of those if you reached the Gung Ho Goober status last year. Our 3rd prompt is for anybody who reached Sublime Goober status. Remember, if you were a Sublime Goober, you also get the perk for Gung Ho and Teeny Weeny, but this one we're calling the double dip. As the name suggests, this means that you can read 1 book and have it count for 2 prompts. Remember, this can only count in Part A of the study plan, and whichever 2 prompts the book is counting for, it has to be aligned with whichever prompt has the higher point value. So for instance, if you're combining 2 prompts and one of them is worth 3 points and the other one's worth 1, the book you're reading has to fulfill the 3-point prompt. For instance, if you're checking off local flora and toxic tactics, because toxic tactics is a 3-point prompt and local flora is a 1-point prompt, it has to check off toxic tactics. If you reached Uber Goober status though, the perk that you get is called the Phantom Book. This is essentially a free pass. You don't even have to read a book to be able to accumulate points here. Just pick any prompt in Part A of the study plan and check it off as if you completed it. This does still have to be done sequentially though, so you can't just go in on day 1 and check off a 3-point prompt if you haven't completed number 1 or 2 in that category. Remember, these perks do stack, so if you reached Uber Goober status, you get all 4 perks, and you can also combine the perks together. So for instance, using the backdate bonus and the prompt swap at the same time for the same book. These perks also don't have to be used in the very first read for the readathon, with the exception of the backdate bonus, because that one specifically relates to your first book. Along with the points that you can accumulate from finishing books in May, we also have some bonus points on offer. Make sure that you pay close attention to our Goober Readathon resources and posts so that you don't miss out on picking up those bonus points. As said, depending on how many points you earn in the readathon, you can earn different Goober tiers, or effectively deepening Ghosty Goober's understanding of plants and plant care. If you manage to achieve between 1 and 12 points for the readathon, you're going to be what we call a spooky spore. Even though this is only the first tier, it is still admirable, but our second tier, for people who earn between 13 and 24 points, are called a botanical bud. Notice the spelling. Because ghosts. For our third tier though, if you earn between 25 and 36 points, you are a ghostly gardener, but for 37 to 48 points, you are a spirited sproutologist. The top tier for the readathon though, for anybody who earns 49 to 75 points, you are a haunting herbologist. This is the top tier of the readathon, which requires a decent chunk of reading, but you don't have to read for every single prompt to be able to reach this level. You just need to make sure you're strategic about which perks you undertake, and possibly figure out how to get those bonus points. When it comes to getting involved in the readathon, we have a couple of key dates to be aware of. One of them is when the readathon is, with the official start time being midnight on May 1st in New Zealand. You can of course make this midnight on the 1st wherever you're based to make it easier, or you can start when we'll be starting. Well, I'll probably be asleep, but I'll start in the morning. The next date to be aware of is May 3rd, this one being a time for a self-led reading retreat. While the Goober hosts are going to be getting together and having a reading retreat together, this is a great opportunity to tell the rest of the world to leave you alone to your books. It is a dedicated day to kickstart your reading in May, so mark it on your calendar so you can carve out some time for yourself to get some reading done. Another good opportunity to get some reading done is a final push reading sprint that we're going to be having on either May 24th or 25th, depending on where you're based. That one's going to be happening on the channel, so stay tuned for the live stream notification for that one. If you don't already have notifications turned on, you might want to turn them on so that you get a little reminder. The other key date though is the end of the readathon, or the last day in May. You have until 11:59 PM, or effectively when the clock strikes midnight, to get your reads finished and count them for the readathon. While I'll be taking this as 11:59 PM on the 31st of May in New Zealand, you can of course do this in your local time zone. If you're sitting there like, okay, cool, yes, but how do I get involved? Then there are only 3 things you need to do. The first one is to jump down into the description box. We have a link to our free resource library, which has all of the information for the readathon. This includes the information document that describes everything I've been running my mouth about. It also has Goober's study plan, so you can see all of the prompts and the elaborations of these. And it has some other bonus things as well, like printables that you can use for your reading journal, or an Instagram story template if you want to share your progress online. The second thing to do though is jump into our reading community, which is over on Discord. This is where the Goober Readathon is being hosted. It's where people are going to be updating about their progress, it's where they're going to be sharing their reads, their reading journal setups, polling the community for any related prompts. Even if you haven't used Discord before, I promise you our community will help you out. We have plenty of novices join and have a really great time there. Even if you don't want to get involved in the readathon, you can still come join us if you like reading. This is also the space where we host our general reading community and also the Bujo Buddies book club, which you're also more than welcome to join, but you don't have to. It's not necessary for joining the readathon. The third thing to do though is review Goober's plant study plan and consider which of the prompts you're going to be tackling. As mentioned, you do not have to tackle every single one. Part A is sequential and Part B can be done at any time, but outside of that, which prompts you decide to go after are completely up to you. We also have a helpful TBR planning and point tracking spreadsheet in that free resource library, so be sure to check that one out too. While all of the details for the readathon can be found in the information document that we have in the resource library, I wanted to go over the prompts with you so that you can get a feel for what to expect from our readathon and also possibly get some clarification if you have any questions. Starting at the start, a very good place to start, we have Part A of the study plan. This one has 6 categories, those being native plants, edible plants, medicinal plants, poisonous plants, carnivorous plants, and aquatic plants. Each of these has 3 sub-areas that Ghosty Goober wants to learn about. So starting with the first one, in native plants we have local flora, and for this one we were thinking about reads that are close to home. In particular, a book that you already own. This one is worth 1 point, but the second prompt that we have in this category is related to the learning area of ecological restoration, and the prompt here is to continue a series. You're essentially growing your understanding of this world and its characters, and reading either book 2, 3, 4, anything that isn't the first book in a series. It should probably be a series you've already started, given its continuous series. I don't know many people who jump in on book 2 of a series, but just in case you were wondering, it should be a series you've already started. For topic 3, this is endemic biomes, and the prompt here is to read from an author who is either living in your country or was born in your country. How you define your country is up to you. This could either be the country that you were born in or the country you're currently living in, whatever country you have a personal tie to. Looking at the category of edible plants though, the first learning area here is home growing. This is again thinking about books that are a little bit closer to home, so in particular a book that you've recently added to your TBR. This could be part of a physical TBR, so very much like in your home, or it could be one that you've got on a digital or physical list. That one is worth 1 point, and then for our 2-point prompt, this one's related to the area of foraging and wild foods. For this one, we're looking a little further afield and going with a secondhand or borrowed book. This could be borrowed in the sense of borrowed from a library, or borrowed as in borrowed from a friend, and it could be secondhand in the sense that it was gifted to you from somebody else who previously owned and read the book, or it could have been purchased at a secondhand bookshop. The third topic that Ghosty Goober is interested in when it comes to edible plants is agricultural systems. Here we're thinking big, and in particular, you want to read a book that has over 100,000 ratings on either Goodreads or Storygraph, or wherever you find book ratings. I personally use Goodreads, but the Goober Readathon does have a reading challenge on both platforms. Those ones can be found linked in the description box below. Moving on to the category of medicinal plants though, the first learning area we have here are herbal remedies. And in particular, we were thinking about remedying a reading slump. For this one, you want to read a book that you think it could cure a reading slump, either because you've read it before and you think it could cure it, or because you're just hopeful that it's going to be able to do that in future. Hopefully you're not currently in a reading slump. But if you are, a readathon can be a great way to gamify your reading and get back into it. Depending on the readathon, sometimes they're really overwhelming, but not our one. Hopefully, it's a pick and choose model. For 2 points though, we have the topic of traditional medicines, and this is reading a book that is a retelling, or it's related to folklore or traditional stories. If you're more interested in reading a non-fiction here, it could be about traditional stories or about folklore. It doesn't have to be the story itself. But the next topic in this category is pharmabotanicals, or pharmaceutical uses of botanicals. This one was originally going to be called genetically modified plants, but I couldn't get it to fit nicely on the page. But the actual prompt related to this one is a book set in or focusing on the future. For instance, this could be a sci-fi book that's set in the future, or any genre of book that's set in the future, or it could be a non-fiction book that's looking about how to change or better the future. The next category we have though are poisonous plants, with the first topic being early identification, essentially being able to figure out that you've come into contact with a poisonous plant and making sure you can do something about it. In this case, the prompt that we're reading for is an eye-catching cover. This could either be eye-catching because it's gorgeous, like we love looking at it, or it could be really bright, punchy. There's something about it that catches the eye. Doesn't necessarily have to be attractive, just needs to be eye-catching. Once we've identified the fact that we've come into contact with a poisonous plant though, then we need to think about antidote administration. For this one, we're looking for a recommendation from somebody else, so essentially getting treated by somebody else. This one either could be from a friend, a family, a trusted adult, somebody whose reading recommendation you think you can trust. This could also come from an online list or online source as well. Once we know how to treat coming into contact with poisonous plants though, our next topic is toxic tactics. So essentially how to use poisonous plants for nefarious purposes. This one is a 3-point prompt, and what we're actually trying to read here though is a book you've been avoiding. This could be because it's intimidating, you're worried it's going to be boring, or maybe there's just something else that's holding you back from starting. And a good reminder here is that you only have to read 50% of the book in May to still get the points. If you undertake this prompt with something that you don't really end up enjoying, you don't have to finish it completely. Our next category though are carnivorous plants, with the first topic being predatory plants. In this one, you're going to be the predator, and you're going to go and poach a book from somebody else's TBR. This again could be a friend, family member, trusted adult, or it could be somebody that you follow online. That one is a 1-point prompt, but for our 2-point prompt in this category, we're looking at traps and lures. So thinking about how plants lure their prey in and trap them so that they can eat them. The actual prompt here though is to read the first in a series, because oftentimes when you read the first in the series, now you've trapped yourself into reading another 7 books, depending on the length of the series, of course. For this one, a series can be any length, so 2 books, 10 books. You just need to read the first one in that series. The next topic we have in this category though is digestive processes. So thinking about how these carnivorous plants take the food in and then turn it into nutrients that the body can use. For us though, the prompt we're going to be reading for is finishing a book in a day. So starting and finishing that book within the same 24-hour period. This could be a calendar day, so like starting on the 4th of May and finishing on the 4th of May, or it could be starting on the 4th of May at 11 AM and finishing by 11 AM on the 5th of May. Make sure you save yourself a nice small book for that one, or carve out a decent chunk of a day to be able to read a longer one. The 6th category in part A of the plant study plan though is aquatic plants, with our first topic being microaquariums. For this one, we're thinking small, so the prompt we're reading for is a book with 300 pages or less. Given that typically a smaller number of pages makes for an easier read, that is a 1-point prompt. And the next topic in this category is wetland ecosystems. For this one, we're thinking about the blending of aquatic and terrestrial systems, so what we're going to be reading is a genre blend. This can be any combination of 2 genres, so it could be a romance fantasy, a sci-fi fantasy, a self-help memoir, any kind of combination of any 2 genres. For 3 points though, we have the topic of marine botany. This one being a book that is set in or around water. Any body of water counts here. If you can find a book that is very closely set near a puddle, then you are allowed to read that. I don't encourage you to set your book next to a puddle, that just seems like it would be kind of dangerous. We're more so thinking about the topic or material within the book rather than the physical location of the book. This could be, for instance, a book that is set in or on the ocean, near a river, maybe it's all about swimming pools. Any body of water counts here. While that is part A of the study plan, we also have part B, and this is for advanced plant studies. These prompts will earn you anywhere from 2 to 6 points, depending on which prompt you're looking at, and we have 3 separate categories in this one, each with 3 prompts within them. The first category is biodiversity basics, and this is all about reading from your host TBRs. Each of the 3 hosts for the Goober Readathon has put forward 5 different books, and to earn maximum points in biodiversity basics, you just have to read 1 book from each of those lists. You don't have to read from every single one of our TBRs though. As said, there are 3 different prompts in this category. The first one being genetic diversity, so thinking about one of the smallest scales of diversity there is. So in this case, you only have to read 1 book from one of the host lists. That one is going to be worth 2 points, but for an additional 4 points, you just need to read another book from another host list. So effectively having read 2 books, 1 from each of 2 different hosts. While that one is called species diversity, so thinking at a little bigger of a scale, our next one is worth 6 points, and that one is called ecological diversity. That's thinking about the diversity within an entire ecosystem. So in this case, you have to read 1 book from each of the 3 host TBRs. If you're wondering what is on our TBRs for the readathon, as said, we have put forward 5 books. We won't necessarily read them, and we won't necessarily read only them, but those are the ones in particular that we've set aside as potentials for the readathon for us. Thinking about Rachel's TBR, she has Every Heart a Doorway, The Housemaid, Little Stranger, Dungeons and Drama, and Assistant to the Villain. Whereas for Monica's TBR, she has The Road of Bones, Blood and Steel, The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, Blood on Her Tongue, and The Teller of Small Fortunes. Whereas on my TBR, I have The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, One Dark Window, Undead and Unwed, 4,000 Weeks, and Buy Back Your Time. As per every prompt that we have in this readathon, you do not have to undertake these ones. If the books that we have on our TBRs don't sound like they're for you, that's cool, but this is a good way to boost your points because they are worth 2, 4, and 6 points. Meaning that if you read 1 book from each of the host TBRs, you could earn yourself 12 points towards the readathon. Looking at the next category though, this one is called the Plant Practicum, and this one actually doesn't require you to read books. Just like any of the prompts that we have in Part B, these ones don't have to be completed in order, though technically the ones in Biodiversity Basics kind of build on each other, but anyway. The first prompt that we have in this category is called Kitchen Garden, and this one asks you to make a plant-based meal. Ideally, it's also going to be one that you eat. You don't have to eat it, I'm not going to make you, but as part of this, we want to see what you made, so be sure to share it in the Discord community. We have a dedicated space for the Plant Practicum and sharing pictures of these. That one is worth 2 points, but for 4 points, we have the topic of touch grass, and this one encourages you to get outside and take a walk in nature. That could be a park, it could be a hiking trail, it could be somewhere close to home or somewhere a little further afield, but for this one we're just going to be getting outside. There is no required length of time that you have to be outside. You can go out for a nature walk for all of about 2 minutes, snap a picture, and go back inside to your books if you want to. Just make sure that you snap that picture so that you can share it with us as evidence. For 6 points though, we have the topic of urban greenification, and for this one, you're going to be growing a plant if you choose to undertake it. As said, all of these are optional. This should be a plant that you don't already have in your home, or not a plant that's already established. You can of course take a cutting from a plant you already have and propagate that if you wanted to, but for this one, we're going to be growing a plant, and hopefully by the end of the month it will still be growing. Just like all of the other plant practicum prompts, make sure that you take a photo so that we can check it out. The third category in this one though is called Advanced Horticulture. Each of the prompts in this category are worth 4 points, but the first topic in here is called Community Gardens, and this encourages us to get the community to pick our next read. This is what we would call a poll-picked book. We have a dedicated space in the Discord server where you can put these polls forward, or you could do them in your own social spaces like Instagram or wherever else. For this one though, you just have to provide at least 2 options for the community to pick from, and then go with whichever one the most people say you should read. The next topic though is called Exotic Plants, also for 4 points, and for this one we're going to be reading a special edition. This could be a special edition in terms of the book aesthetics, like maybe it's a different cover design or a limited release or something like that, or it could have bonus material compared to the more typical publications of the book. The third topic though is called Propagation Station, and this one is going to be a reread. So reading something that you have already read before. You don't have to have read it as part of this readathon, you could have read it at any point in time, but it's a book that you have already read. As said, all of these prompts and their elaborations can be found in the information document in the resource library. So to get involved with the readathon, remember there are only 3 steps. 1, jump into the description box to nab the link to that free resource library so that you have all of the information you need. 2, jump over into our Discord space so that you can introduce yourself and get amongst the other people who are doing the readathon. And 3, plan out the reads that you're going to be tackling in May. I would love to know if you're taking part in the readathon, let me know in the comments, but otherwise I'll see you over in our Discord server. Now I need to go and fully plan my TBR because I definitely want to be a haunting herbologist.